Hello and welcome to the News Tonight, your daily roundup of all the news from India and around the world. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. First, the headlines we are tracking right now. High security alert sounded at airports across the country after specific intelligence inputs of a hijack threat to a Delhi-Kabul Air India flight. Security agencies meet to decide plan of action. India tells Pakistan to stick to laid-down mechanisms to resolve disputes, rejects the Pak claim of India having started the firing across the international border in Jammu and Kashmir. Rajasthan government cancelled mutations of land purchased by Robert Vadra's firm, seized 360 hectares of land bought in 2010. Congress terms the move political vendetta. And 4 more dead bodies and 5 large objects. Debris from crashed Air Asia plane recovered from the Java Sea as bad weather delays efforts. The big story. Security has been beefed up at the Delhi airport and other airports across the country after a specific hijack alert from intelligence agencies. Now, airport authorities have received inputs regarding possibility of a Delhi-Kabul flight operated by Air India being targeted by hijackers. Ground staff has also been asked to intensify checks on cabin baggage of passengers and crew. Commandos will patrol areas adjoining the airport and the number of flight marshals on flights will also be increased. The alert has been issued in the run-up to the Republic Day and US President Barack Obama's visit to India. Obama will be the chief guest at the Republic Day celebrations. Senior officials of Bureau of Civil Aviation Security, CISF and AAI held a meeting in Kolkata on Saturday night to review the security measures.
हवाई हमारी सीमा के ऊपर भी किसी न किसी तरीके से हमको वो क्या कहते हैं कठिनाई में डालने की कोशिश करेंगे, खासकर जहां पे हमारे देश के यात्री जाते हैं एयर इंडिया इत्यादि उसके ऊपर हमला करने की कोशिश करेंगे ताकि त्रासदी ज्यादा से ज्यादा हो। इसलिए एयर इंडिया पे अलर्ट लगाना बहुत जरूरी हो गया, खासकर दिल्ली काबुल फ्लाइट या इंडिया काबुल फ्लाइट जो है उसमें ज्यादा खतरा लगता है। ये ऐसी जब थ्रेट आई है तो उसके ऊपर कदम उठाए जाएंगे।
And after massive shelling by Pakistan rangers across the international border into India and the discovery of an arms-laden boat off the coast of Gujarat, political parties and security analysts have called on Pakistan for restraint and adherence to laid-down mechanism to ensure peace on the border. However, a war of word rages. Here is a report.
पाकिस्तान हमारा पड़ोसी देश है। हम अपने हर पड़ोसी के साथ बहुत ही अच्छे रिश्ते चाहते हैं। आज भी चाहते हैं कि हमारे अच्छे रिश्ते हों। लेकिन मैं समझता हूं पाकिस्तान सरकार को भी अपनी तरफ से पहल करनी चाहिए ताकि इस प्रकार का सीज फायर वायलेशन न हो।
We are surrounded in northern boundary by 2 neighbors who are not very comfortable neighbors. Pakistan doesn't like to stay quiet even on the New Year day.
The new year has started on a bad note for the neighbours of the subcontinent. A slew of ceasefire violations along the international border that resulted in deaths of BSF men, Pakistan Rangers, Indian Army Jawans and even civilians. And then the Pak boat supposedly carrying arms looking to penetrate the Gujarat coastline but stopped just in time. After the Pak Defence Minister threatened aggressively saying it would speak to India in a language it understands, India's External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj shot off a letter to Sartaj Aziz asking Pakistan to adhere to laid-down mechanisms. There's still no sign of any cooling off on either side.
The latest attempt to seizure of the boat, I think clearly shows, and the wireless messages that have been intercepted clearly show that there has been this has been an operation supported by the Pakistani army.
Investigation होना चाहिए और जो कुछ ये हुआ है, चाहे वो बोट्स का आना हो या हमारी सरहदों पर पाकिस्तान का आग उगलना हो, ये सब का सब न सिर्फ निंदनीय है बल्कि कोई सख्त कदम उठाने की जरूरत है।
On Sunday, Pakistan captured 2 Indian boats with 12 Indian fishermen in the Arabian Sea, seen as retaliation to the Pak boat being intercepted off Gujarat. Security experts in India say Pakistan's continuing threatening posture at India's doorstep takes the relationship to dangerous lows.
Operation of this magnitude is not possible without the support of the army or major intelligence agencies of a country. Was not expecting that India would respond with such force, So they are also, they thought, they'll get away this time again,
India's Defence Ministry is reportedly preparing for a full internal review of the intercepted satellite phone communications in the terror boot operation to strengthen its case. The pressure mounts on Pakistan. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Meanwhile, there has been a let-up in the firing today along the Indo-Pak border. Villagers across the Indo-Pak international border on the Indian side, who have borne the brunt of shelling and gunfire for decades now, term this ever-hanging shadow of fear a curse that they long to get rid of for good. Here is a report.
After days of the thunder of gunfire, a calm Sunday morning in a village in Samba district. The village adjoins the international border with Pakistan. Hundreds of residents had been evacuated to safety zones after the latest bout of firing began on New Year's Eve. Most haven't returned yet. Those who remain show the damage done, some of it old, some in the latest firing. More than this, they say, are the scarred minds extending to many generations. They want an end of it once and for all.
ये तो बात ठीक है कि फायरिंग बंद है कल से, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि जब लोग प्लान कर लेते हैं तो उसके बाद फायरिंग बंद होती है. लोगों को सर्दी में कभी उधर जाना पड़ता है, कभी उधर भागना पड़ता है. ऐसा होना चाहिए कि जब फायरिंग हो रहा है तो इसको अब जब लोगों ने प्लान कर लिया है तो फायरिंग जब एक महीना कम से कम करनी चाहिए हमारे हिंदुस्तान वालों को. पाकिस्तान को करारा जवाब देना चाहिए.
On Friday night and into Saturday, Pakistan Rangers had targeted several BSF posts in Jammu and Samba sectors. 2 army jawans and a woman were killed, 8 civilians were injured. The people who remain here say this Sunday morning peace is a temporary phenomenon that they dream would become part of life.
कोई पशु देखने के लिए बुजुर्ग थे इधर, इसलिए इनका पता पुता लेने आ गए. फिलहाल खतरा तो है हमारे लोगों को, और आज थोड़ी शांति है. यही शांति रहनी चाहिए.
It's a story of being caught in the crossfire. The frequency of frontier clashes in the last week has dashed hopes that a brief thaw after the new government came to power would turn things for the better. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
All right, we'll take a very short break here. On the other side, we get you either a Milan un Nabi celebrations across the country. That and much more after a short break. Welcome back after the break. News from the national capital now. Well, assembly elections are likely to be held in Delhi in the middle of February. A PTI report quotes authoritative sources in the Election Commission as saying that the announcement for the one-day poll for the 70-member assembly may be made this week. The final list of electoral rolls for the National Capital Territory of Delhi will be published tomorrow. That will pave the way for holding the polls any time thereafter. PTI quotes sources as saying that the schedule will be so fine-tuned that the elections are hoped to be completed in the second or third week of February. The elections are expected to be a BJP versus AAP contest. Meanwhile, the Election Commission is to create national-level electoral roll. Now, this is part of the efforts to provide single-window services to voters. The move will provide voters a one-stop center for new registrations, modifications and deletions in the electoral roll. The data can be stored as a national data center. The services offered to voters will include providing facilities for searching name, knowing the concerned block-level officer, constituency, name and number, and other voter information. And in other news, the Rajasthan government today cancelled mutation of land purchased by Sonia Gandhi's son-in-law Robert Vadra's firm Skylight Hospitality Private Limited. The government has seized approximately 360 hectares of land that the firm had bought in 2010.
After the controversy on DLF Vadra deal, more trouble for Sonia Gandhi's son-in-law Robert Vadra. Vadra's land deals are under the scanner again. Rajasthan government has seized close to 360 hectares of land belonging to Vadra's firm Skylight Hospitality after an investigation found inconsistencies in the deal.
फाइलों का अध्ययन चल रहा है. आवश्यकता पड़ी तो एक जांच आयोग बैठाने का भी सरकार उस पर विचार कर सकती है। और अगर किसी भी व्यक्ति को ऐसा लगता है कि सरकार ने कोई गलत काम किया है, जो संविधान और कानून के दायरे से बाहर जाकर के किया है, तो वह कानून और न्यायालय का दरवाजा खटखटा सकता है।
The plots of land were bought by Vadra's company in 2010 and further changed hands over the past few years. Vadra is accused of making windfall gains on purchases of land at below market prices. An investigation was initiated in October last year. Recently, IT department sent a notice to Vadra's firm seeking details of its financial and land deals. However, Congress is crying foul.
सरकार तो लगातार इस तरीके की कोशिशें कर रही है कि वाड्रा को परेशान किया जाए। अदालत का तो कोई फैसला नहीं है। सरकार ने ये मन बना रखा है कि उसको बदले की भावना से काम करना है।
अगर भारतीय जनता पार्टी के पास रॉबर्ट वाड्रा जी के ऊपर कोई ऐसा उन्होंने गैरकानूनी काम किया है तो मुकदमा दायर करें ना। रॉबर्ट वाड्रा जी लड़ाई लड़ेंगे अगर उनको लड़ना है तो, लेकिन केवल बदनाम इसलिए करना क्योंकि वो सोनिया गांधी के दामाद हैं, हम उसकी निंदा करते हैं।
The Vasundhara Rajya government had promised action against the alleged dubious land deals by Vadra in their election manifesto before the assembly polls in 2013 and soon after coming to power had constituted an inquiry. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Hopes of a breather on fare hikes for economy air travellers. A temporary cap on airfares may soon be in place. The government is considering a mechanism on these lines that may limit the maximum fare to any national destination in the economy class at 20,000 rupees. But not everyone is happy. Take a look at this Sunday special report.
Sunil Sharma, a senior executive with a private company in Delhi, booked an emergency air ticket to Thiruvananthapuram last week. He had to reach his ailing son urgently. But a last-minute reservation meant no choice but to shell out an exorbitant fare. Sharma raises the need for corrective steps.
फिक्स होना चाहिए कि हाँ जो भी ट्रैवल टाइम है या ड्यूरेशन है या जो डिस्टेंस है उसके अनुसार बिल्कुल फिक्स होना चाहिए, इसमें कोई वेरिएशन नहीं चाहिए।
A sharp spike in the economy airfares was the direct fallout of the spate of cancellations following the crisis in budget carrier SpiceJet. Holiday season travellers were directly hit. Data for December 17, 2014 shows that average spot fares had jumped 45% on the Delhi-Mumbai route and 57% on the Delhi-Bangalore route on the back of SpiceJet's cancellations. The government too points out a long overdue need to look into the matter.
Getting 3 or 4 times of the rates, we are not convinced. But till date, the policy is worldwide that we cannot restrict the rates of them. But in principle, we believe that there should be a cap by DGCA or by our ministry, that some cap should be there. We are working on that under the present circumstances and laws.
The Aircraft Rules 1937 say the Director General of Civil Aviation can intervene if operators establish excessive or predatory tariffs. But civil aviation experts warn that the capping measure could actually hurt passengers rather than benefit them, because airlines would then stick to the top limit.
There is a seasonal demand. See, holiday season, people are traveling, festival seasons, people are traveling. That time the airlines can, when the demands are there, naturally they will raise their fare.
The mechanism is likely to be finalized in a month after consultations with various stakeholders. The government, though, has clarified that it has no plans to regulate business class fares. The industry has frowned upon the proposed move, asserting that regulating airfares could actually hurt the ailing and cash-strapped airlines. However, the Civil Aviation Ministry claims that it received several complaints from various quarters about the exorbitant fares charged by the airlines at the last moment and reiterated the need to cap the airfares. Reporting from Delhi, Kriti Mishra for Rajya Sabha Television.
The government has decided to set aside the call for a separate time zone for the northeastern states, at least for the moment. The sun rises and sets nearly an hour earlier in northeast India than rest of the country, and the demand for a separate time zone is not an old one. But officials point out that doing this could lead to a spate of related problems.
They have their reasons for the need to be moved to a time zone different from IST. Vastly different sunrise and sunset times and routines top the list. Supported by their geographical location, the globe has been divided into 24 time zones as per longitudinal positions. Russia has 11 time zones. 8 am in Kaliningrad will mean that it'll be 6 pm in the Kamchatka Peninsula. Every time zone has a difference of 1 hour. Similarly, Australia is divided in 3 time zones with Western Standard Time, Central Standard Time and Eastern Standard Time. To save energy and other factors, the northeastern states have been demanding that they should not be tied down by the Indian Standard Time. The government has rejected the idea, saying that scientific studies suggest only a paltry 1.2 to 1.5% increase in energy savings.
वो डोनर मंत्रालय के दायरे में नहीं आती बात, इसलिए मुझे उसका कोई अधिक जानकारी नहीं है। परंतु मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि संसद में शायद इस प्रकार का एक प्रश्न आया था, जिसके उत्तर में सरकार ने ये कहा था कि अभी इस प्रकार की योजना या इस प्रकार की कोई विषय सरकार के विचाराधीन नहीं है।
Experts contend that a lack of understanding of the idea of a different time zone will cause huge problems. Timings of railways and air transport will be the first to be affected. As a remedy, the centre suggests the state governments in the northeast vary working hours according to their convenience. CPM MP Ritabrata Banerjee, who raised the issue in the Rajya Sabha, has said he would take up the government's reply with chief ministers of the region.
Minister of Assam, he had also वो भी बोले हैं कि ये सेपरेट टाइम जोन के बारे में, तो ये देखते हैं नॉर्थ ईस्ट का जो माहौल, ये जो त्रिपुरा का जो चीफ मिनिस्टर है मानिक सरकार, जो हमारा पार्टी से है, हम उनसे बात करेंगे। ये आंसर आया है, इसके बाद क्या होगा ये वो लोग उठाएंगे, जब एनडीसी मीटिंग होगा उसमें आकर उठाएंगे।
Indian Standard Time has been set on 82.5 degrees east longitude, as per the Geographical Centre of India. The sheer size of this time zone has meant it is disadvantageous for the northeastern states as they receive less daylight. Tea planters in Assam are forced to follow a different time zone for better production. Now Vikram Singh's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
The cold wave has eased off in the capital in terms of minimum temperatures, but fog woes haven't gone too far as Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh continue to bear the brunt of rain and snow.
Mild rains have pushed up minimum temperatures in the capital. But the fog effects persist, with train and air schedules still way away from correction. And for most of North India, there's no respite in sight. Snowfall in the higher reaches has directly affected other northern states of Punjab, Haryana, Delhi and Uttar Pradesh.
काफ़ी धुंध है पिछले और पहले कुछ 2-3 दिन ठीक रही है, पर आज बहुत ज़्यादा हो गई है, तो काफ़ी दिक्कत होती है सड़क देखने में।
ट्रेनों पर ठंडी का प्रकोप तो बहुत ज़्यादा है और कि सब बहुत ज़्यादा ट्रेनें लेट हैं, 12 घंटा सही इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं दिया जा रहा है, बस दिक्कत ये इस बात की है।
Bone-chilling conditions continue in Jammu and Kashmir as well, with overnight temperatures remaining several notches below freezing point. High-altitude areas of Himachal Pradesh had moderate snowfall and rains, resulting in the mercury to drop. The minimum temperature recorded in Shimla is -4.4 degrees Celsius. According to the Met Department, a further drop in temperatures is expected in the next 24 hours. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And here is all the other national news that we are tracking in nationwide. Sitting Samajwadi Party MLA Kaptan Singh Rajput and his brother have been declared guilty of murder. A court in Chirkhari in Uttar Pradesh held the duo guilty in a 13-year-old murder case. The MLA now faces disqualification. According to the prosecution, the victim Kishan was attacked and killed by Kaptan and his brother on 20th of April 2002. The quantum of punishment is likely to be pronounced on Monday. A blueprint for revival of Congress is expected to be ready by March. Sources say party President Sonia Gandhi has formally written a letter to the state chiefs asking them to seek views and submit a report to her by February end. They also said that an AICC meeting will be held in March to take up these suggestions, which will be compiled in a book form. A two-day orientation program for Haryana's newly elected MLAs ended in Surajkund, Faridabad today. Senior BJP leaders, including Union Ministers Rajnath Singh, Sushma Swaraj, Venkaiah Naidu and KP Gujar, who is also the Faridabad MP, participated in the workshop. The BJP came to power in Haryana with a strong majority in the recent elections. And Eid-e-Milan un Nabi was celebrated across the country today with traditional fervour and gaiety. The Prime Minister, President and other leaders greeted the people on the occasion. Religious processions marking the birth of Prophet Muhammad were taken out in several cities and towns across the country. Homes, mosques, shrines and seminaries were decked with flags, buntings and banners to welcome the day, considered to be among the most blessed in the Islamic calendar.
आज हम लोग का बहुत बड़ा पर्व है, हमारे हुजूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम का जन्मदिन है। आज ही का दिन मतलब हम लोग का दुनिया में तशरीफ लाए थे हुजूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम। इससे बड़ा पर्व हम लोग का कुछ नहीं है।
पैगंबर साहब की यौम विलादत के मौके पर उनके सहाबा इकराम को खिराज अकीदत पेश किया जा रहा है, इसलिए कि सहाबा के जरिए से हमको हुजूर का रास्ता मिला, हमें कुरान मिला, हदीस मिली।
Well, time here for another short break. Up next, North Korea hits back at United States for imposing fresh sanctions. Stay with us. Welcome back after the break. On to some international news now. Well, it is exactly a week today since AirAsia Flight 8501 vanished from radar screens over the Java Sea. Now, operations continue to pull out bodies and debris. Bad weather forced divers to suspend work today, but not before 4 more bodies and 5 large objects were pulled out, as more shocking details of illegal functioning of the airline emerge.
Four more bodies recovered from the Java Sea, making it 34 found so far. Search teams also found 5 large objects, likely to be part of AirAsia flight QZ8501. Officials say there is a long way to go as 30 ships and 14 helicopters scout the area.
The total has been confirmed as 31. The 3 body now is going to be confirmed, okay?
162 people were on board when the plane crashed. Bad weather continues to get in the way of the operation.
Harusnya kita lakukan ini tadi, tetapi karena gelombang baru mereda pada saat sudah matahari tenggelam, maka saya perintahkan untuk ditahan besok. Yang kedua, arus bawah sore hari ini kuat.
Ironically enough, it was bad weather conditions that supposedly caused the plane crash. Finding the black boxes and flight data recorders is said to be crucial to ascertaining what actually happened.
To that effect, the government is now doing evaluation process to investigate. And with that regard, I would not in that regard, the Asia management would fully cooperate with the government in that evaluation process.
Meanwhile, a finding says AirAsia Indonesia did not have a license to fly the Surabaya to Singapore route on Sunday that ended in tragedy. Indonesian Transport Ministry has announced a full investigation into the matter and suspended Indonesia AirAsia flights between the two cities. Bureau Report, Sabha TV.
Now, North Korea has hit back at the United States, slamming the new sanctions against it, describing the move as part of hostile and inflammatory US policy. The US sanctions are in response to a major cyber attack against Sony Pictures, for which the FBI blames Pyongyang. The executive order authorized by President Barack Obama places sanctions on 3 North Korean organizations and 10 individuals. But Pyongyang has denied any involvement in the cyber attack. The attack came as Sony was about to release the movie The Interview, a comedy about a plot to assassinate North Korea's leader. The hacking led Sony to pull out screenings of the film after several top movie chains refused to show it due to security concerns. And for more international news and updates, here is the Global Buzz. At least 8 Taliban militants were killed today in a US drone strike in Pakistan's North Waziristan tribal region near the Afghan border. Earlier, Pakistani airstrikes reportedly killed 31 militants as troops pressed on with a 6-month offensive in tribal regions along the Afghan border that have long been insurgent havens. The airstrikes late Saturday in Tiraha Valley of the Khyber region destroyed 4 militant hideouts and a suicide bomber training center. The British nurse being treated for Ebola is in a critical condition after her health deteriorated in the hospital. The nurse who contracted the Ebola virus in West Africa is being treated at the Royal Free Hospital in London. She became the first person to be diagnosed with Ebola in the United Kingdom last week after she returned to Glasgow. The Islamic State has released a new propaganda video featuring a British hostage, John Cantley, in which he gives a tour inside the city of Mosul in Iraq. In a bizarre documentary-style video, Cantley paints life in the bomb-hit city as stable. This is the 8th such film to feature the 43-year-old who was kidnapped in Syria in November 2012. At least 30 homes are feared destroyed in South Australia as firefighting teams continue to battle out-of-control bushfires. More than 800 firefighters are tackling the blazes, which have been burning for several days in the hills around the city of Adelaide. Reports say that the fires are the worst in the area since the Ash Wednesday bushfires in 1983, which left 75 people dead. Well, that's all in this edition of News Tonight. But finally, the 31st edition of China's annual Ice and Snow Festival gets underway in Harbin City tomorrow. And artists and workers are putting in final touches to their ice sculptures and masterpieces. We'll leave you with some preview glimpses. Good night.